I always say that I never sang any style of music that I hadn't heard in my household growing up. I can't approach it with any kind of thought.
Los Angeles, 1979. The legendary Troubadour was alive with sound. Guitars humming through the walls, voices echoing through smoky corridors, and industry titans brushing shoulders backstage. But suddenly, the energy shattered. A young assistant burst into the promoter's office, eyes wide. Linda Ronstadt just walked out. No warning, no explanation. She'd seen one name on the performance list and left without a word. That name? Still a mystery. But decades later, Linda finally opened the vault, and what came out was not just gossip. It was raw, honest, and long overdue. 7 names, 7 betrayals, and the stories behind them are darker, messier, and more revealing than anyone expected. Because Linda Ronstadt didn't just survive the music industry, she endured it. And in her silence, she carried wounds left by the people who were supposed to be her allies. But now, she's naming names. Before the Eagles were rock royalty, Don Henley was just the guy behind the kit in Linda Ronstadt's band. In the early 70s, she was the headliner, the one packing out venues. He was just a drummer soaking in the glow of her rising fame. She gave him his break. But as the Eagles soared, Henley's humility vanished. Fame reshaped him, and not for the better. The breaking point came backstage at the Universal Amphitheater in 1975. Henley, once grateful and quiet, mocked Linda's musical direction, sneering that she should stick to covers and let real songwriters lead. To her, it wasn't just a slight. It was an erasure of everything she had fought to build. Without hesitation, she revoked his tour credentials. That was it. Industry insiders whispered that Henley's ego had finally gone unchecked. His tantrums, his biting remarks, his behind-closed-doors cruelty, it all came to the surface. And while Linda never dragged his name through the mud publicly, she didn't need to. Behind the scenes, she called him a climber who lost his soul chasing fame. But this wasn't the last betrayal. The Doors were fire on stage. Morrison was chaos incarnate. And Linda? She was still carving a space in a male-dominated world, doing it with grace and grit. That night, at a private after-party near the Whiskey A Go-Go, legends and misfits mingled. But Morrison, already a few drinks deep, saw Linda and made a move that would haunt her for years. He dragged her on stage unscripted, unwanted, and leaned in mid-performance to kiss her. Linda pulled back. He stumbled, knocking over her mic stand, nearly collapsing the setup. It was humiliating. The room froze. Later, in a radio interview, Morrison doubled down, calling her sweet but spineless. He laughed it off. She didn't. Behind closed doors, Linda called him a brilliant wreck who poisoned everything around him. He wasn't just a reckless rock star, he symbolized everything toxic that she battled in the music world. But the next betrayal was more personal, more painful. A benefit concert for farm workers. Linda and Neil Young, 2 voices of conviction, shared a stage for a cause they both claimed to care about. But backstage, Neil dismissed her input. He vetoed her set suggestions, criticized her sound as too commercial. Then, after the show, he told the press she wasn't built for protest. It cut deeper than any bad review ever could. Linda left the venue in tears. She had stood up for the cause, risked her reputation, and the man she considered a fellow activist made her feel small, fake, and unworthy. From that night on, she never shared a stage with him again. To friends, she called him loud in message, cruel in execution. His activism, she said, was hollow when paired with that kind of arrogance. But what came next wasn't political, it was personal. On paper, it was a dream pairing. Frank Zappa, the eccentric genius of experimental rock. Linda Ronstadt, genre-defying, vocally unstoppable. But the moment they entered the studio, the dream curdled. Zappa sneered at her suggestions, called her voice too polished, her ideas too sanitized. In front of an entire room of musicians, he stopped a rehearsal and said, "This is what happens when you hand real music to a pop singer." Linda didn't scream, didn't argue. She packed her things and left. Later, she called him brilliant but brutal. A mind she admired, a man she could never trust again. And still, this was not her deepest cut. There was a time when Linda and David Crosby felt like siblings in the music scene. They shared studios, stages, and dreams. Both were staples of Laurel Canyon's revolutionary sound. But by 1978, things soured. During a vocal session, Linda asked for a key change. Crosby refused. "You should learn to adapt," he snapped. The tension exploded, and within days their argument leaked to the press. But Crosby didn't stop there. In Rolling Stone, he called her manufactured, a blow to a woman who built her entire identity on artistry, not image. She didn't respond in interviews. She never did. But quietly, she banned his name from her band. His songs were scrubbed from tour playlists. It was as if he ceased to exist. To Linda, Crosby wasn't just a disappointment. He was a symbol of how even the most idealistic movements could be corrupted by ego and addiction. But if that was a personal heartbreak, the next was a public one. A major festival in Cleveland. Linda Ronstadt was riding a wave of success, headlining a night packed with legends and rising stars. Elvis Costello, young, brash, razor-tongued, stood backstage with a smirk. In front of a cluster of reporters, he called her set background music for brunch. Linda was stunned. She confronted him, hoping for a retraction, maybe an apology. What she got instead was another cold insult. He walked away, smirking. To her, Costello wasn't just rude, he was hollow, a symbol of a new generation that prized sarcasm over soul. He's clever, she told friends, but there's no heart in it. Still, nothing hurt quite like the final betrayal. Paul Simon and Linda Ronstadt announced a duet. Fans were ecstatic. Their voices were meant to blend, but in the studio, things unraveled. Simon nitpicked every phrase, corrected her delivery, rewrote lyrics without telling her. She later said it felt like being scolded by a principal. What was supposed to be musical alchemy turned into frustration and silence. The song was never released. The session never resumed. Linda quietly swore she'd never work with him again, because it wasn't just about a song, it was about dignity, respect, being treated as an equal, not a student, and that was the final fracture. For decades, Linda Ronstadt said nothing. She watched the headlines come and go, let the myths write themselves, and while others ranted, she let the music do the talking. But now, she's revealing what was always under the surface: betrayal, heartbreak, and the emotional toll of surviving an industry built on ego. This isn't revenge, this is revelation. 7 names, 7 lessons, 7 scars. Linda Ronstadt didn't expose them to tear others down, but to lift the veil on what artists endure behind the spotlight. Because sometimes, the greatest act of strength isn't in what you say, it's in what you carry silently for decades, and then finally share when the world is ready to listen. Which story shocked you the most? Did Linda make the right call staying silent all those years? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true stories from behind the curtain of fame. We'll see you next time. And if you want more videos that uncover the secrets behind music legends, we've got plenty more coming. Tap the bell so you never miss a drop of truth that the tabloids never told you.